CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I got paid $10,000 on the dark web to go through hell. I just saw the most unimaginable and disturbing things. Real human can't think about it. Alright, so this is one of those stories I wish I could just forget. Like actually wipe from my brain. I don't care if people believe me or not. I just need to get this off my chest. I've debated even posting this, but after everything that happened, after what I saw, yeah, I can't hold it in anymore. I'm just your average dude. I'm not some hacker or whatever. I'm not even into that edgy horror stuff. I work remote doing freelance video editing, TikTok edits, YouTube shorts, that kind of thing. Pays the bills. I live in a small apartment outside of Portland, Oregon. Nothing special. I drink too much coffee and doom scroll Twitter like the rest of us. But a few months ago, money got real tight. Rent went up, my main client ghosted me, and my cat needed surgery. So yeah, I was desperate. Like skip meals to save cash, desperate. One night, I was binging some late night YouTube horror stories. You know the ones. Those Here's My Story or Mr. Nightmare kind of vids. Creepy, but entertaining. That's when I saw a comment on one of the videos that caught my eye. It was buried deep in the replies. Just a simple line. If you're broke and have nothing to lose, try room 56 on the Way Down Market. Way Down Market. I had no idea what that was. I figured it was some dark web thing, but I ignored it. Until the next day, when I saw another weird comment on a totally unrelated TikTok that said, $10,000 is worth it, if you can survive. Room 56. Way Down Market. Same wording, same creepy vibe. At that point, I was curious. Not break the law curious. Just Google some shady stuff at 3 a.m. curious. That's how it started. After a couple hours of rabbit-holing forums and Reddit threads, I found out Way Down Market was this invite-only hidden site on the dark web. Not Silk Road level, but still sketchy. Most people claimed it was a hoax or some ARG, but some were dead serious. There was a legend going around. Room 56 was an event you could sign up for if you were really desperate. For money, for thrills, whatever. Supposedly, you sign a contract digitally, do some tasks, and you get paid. A lot. I laughed at first. It felt too much like a Netflix series. But then I saw screenshots of supposed payouts. Real PayPal transfers. Venmo receipts. One guy claimed he walked away with $20,000 for 3 hours of psychological testing. Another said he only made it 45 minutes before quitting and still got $3,000. I don't know what broke in me, but something clicked. Like a voice in my head whispered, "You've got nothing to lose." And at that point, I didn't. So I dug deeper. I found a backdoor link on a hidden forum, accessed through Tor. No password, just a blinking black page with white text. Welcome to Way Down Market. You may proceed to room 56. Caution, once you begin, you must finish. There were no options, no explanation, just a giant red button that said, "Enter room 56. I clicked it. The screen glitched, and a loading bar popped up. Then a webcam window opened. Mine. Like my actual webcam activated without me allowing it. It wasn't even subtle. A creepy voice came through my speakers, robotic and distorted. Identity confirmed. You qualify. Proceed? I should have backed out. I really should have. But I didn't. I typed, yes. Instantly, a wall of terms and conditions appeared. It scrolled on its own. Paragraphs of legal garbage. NDA this, risk of injury that. It all ended with one line in bold. Do not disclose what you experience until all 5 phases are complete. You may opt out at any time by saying, I forfeit the reward. Then it said, Task 1, look outside. I froze. Was this just a prank? Or some ARG thing where they scare you with public info? I got up and looked out my apartment window. It was 2:37 a.m. Quiet. Just streetlights and a guy walking his dog. But then I saw a black car across the street, running lights off, windows tinted. I hadn't noticed it before. It felt off, like it had just pulled up, like it was watching me. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A notification from an app I didn't download. Good. You followed instructions. Your first $500 has been deposited. I opened my Cash App. And yeah, $500. Just like that. My heart started racing. This was real. Too real. Then the app lit up again. Task 2. Go to McDonald's on 82nd Avenue. Ask for the hollow meal. Do not speak to anyone else. Do not look at the employee's name tag. I swear to God, I almost laughed. This had to be some elaborate joke. But I needed that money. So I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and got in my car. The McDonald's was maybe a 15-minute drive. The weird thing? It was open at 3 a.m. Lights on. No other customers. Just one employee at the counter, back turned. They weren't doing anything. Just standing there. I walked up, trying to act normal. Can I get the hollow meal? The worker didn't turn around, just nodded, slowly, then placed a plain, unmarked white bag on the counter. I grabbed it and left, like the bag was on fire or something. Once I got in my car, my phone buzzed again. $1,500 has been deposited. Do not eat the contents. Dispose of it in a moving body of water within the next hour. I didn't even want to open it at that point. Whatever was inside that bag, it smelled off, like rust and raw meat. I drove to the river and tossed it in without thinking. When I got back home, there was a new message waiting. You've completed phase 1. Good work. We'll be in touch. That was 2 months ago, and that was the last normal night I had. I didn't sleep for the next 3 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that McDonald's employee's back, still, frozen, like a statue. My brain kept replaying it over and over again, how they never turned to face me, how I swear their fingernails were gone, like they had scratched through drywall with their bare hands for hours straight. After that night, I unplugged my webcam, reset my phone, even changed my apartment locks. But it didn't matter. The app reappeared on my phone the next morning. My account was still open, and I swear on everything I love, I never reinstalled it. It was just there. The new message was simple. Phase 2 begins now. Put on your best clothes. You're being picked up. And the GPS started blinking. A black SUV pulled up outside 15 minutes later, completely blacked out, no plates. I didn't want to go. My chest was heavy. I had that gut feeling, you know, like when something is just wrong and your body knows before your brain does. But I got in anyway. because I needed the money, and because part of me wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went. The guy driving never spoke. He was dressed like a valet or a funeral director. Thin, pale hands, tinted sunglasses, at night. He only nodded when I got in and started driving. No music, no talking, just the low hum of tires on asphalt and my heart pounding in my ears. After about an hour, we pulled into this massive gated property somewhere in the middle of the woods. No signs, no lights, just a long gravel road leading up to a house that didn't look like it belonged anywhere near Oregon. It looked like one of those old southern plantation homes, but rotten. Half of it was literally collapsing inward. Broken porch, shattered windows, moss creeping up the side like veins. I asked where we were. The driver didn't even look at me. He just said, "Room 56 is ready." Inside, the house smelled like wet books and something fermented. I walked down a narrow hallway covered in old peeling wallpaper, dark red floral print, like a haunted hotel from a movie. My footsteps echoed. No signs of life, except for the breathing. I know how that sounds, but there was breathing coming from behind the walls. Shallow, wheezing breaths, like someone was pressed up against the wallpaper with their mouth open, exhaling through their teeth. Every couple steps, I'd hear it again. Ugh. Too loud to be pipes, too human to be animals. I wanted to leave, right then, but the door at the end of the hallway opened on its own, so I walked in. The room was pitch black except for a single dim bulb hanging from a cord, and in the center of the room, a chair, and in that chair, a man. At least, I thought it was a man. He was completely still, wearing an old suit, hands folded in his lap. His face was wrapped in gauze, like a mummy, except the gauze was soaked through around the mouth and eyes, stained dark red. I didn't say a word. I didn't move. I just stared. That's when the lights flickered, and the wallpaper behind him shifted, like someone was crawling underneath it. I swear to God, I saw fingers pushing through from the inside, the shape of a hand, then another, pressing, writhing, struggling, like something was trapped inside the wall trying to get out. The man in the chair suddenly jerked, not his whole body, just his neck. He tilted his head toward me, like a puppet on a broken string, and whispered, "He's hungry." That's all he said. Then the lights went out. When they came back on, I wasn't in the same room anymore. The chair was gone. The man was gone. The wallpaper, gone. Instead, I was standing in this long hallway made of meat, like flesh, walls that pulsed and twitched. The floor squished under my feet with every step. It smelled like a mix between raw hamburger and bleach. I couldn't breathe. My chest got tight, my eyes watering. I tried to turn around, but the hallway behind me had closed in. Then the speakers crackled. That robotic voice from before whispered, "Phase 2 is a test of endurance. You will walk. You will see. You will not speak, no matter what you hear." And then I heard it. Voices, familiar ones. My mom's voice first, screaming for help, begging, pleading like she was being dragged underwater. Then my best friend's laugh, but warped, like it was being played backwards. Then my own voice, whispering things I'd never said. "You'll never be clean again." I kept walking. My legs were shaking, but I walked. And then, after what felt like hours, I saw them. People in the walls. Not corpses. Not ghosts. People. Alive. They were stitched into the walls, part of the flesh, like their arms and legs had been fused into the muscle and skin. faces bulging from the wall, screaming silently, mouths sewn shut, eyes wide with terror. I couldn't look away. Their eyes followed me, all of them, and every once in a while, one of them would twitch violently, like they were still fighting it, like they hadn't given up. That's when I saw her. There was a young girl stitched in near the end of the hallway, maybe 8 or 9 years old, blonde pigtails, cartoon pajamas. Her eyes were red and swollen, like she'd been crying for days. But unlike the others, her mouth wasn't sewn shut. She looked at me and whispered, "You're next." Then the wall opened up behind her, like a throat expanding, and sucked her backward. Gone. I dropped to my knees. I couldn't take it. I screamed. Instantly, the speaker voice came back. "You spoke. You forfeit your reward. The exit is now open." The hallway split open in front of me, like it had been waiting, a staircase leading upward. I didn't even hesitate. I just ran. I didn't stop running until I saw daylight leaking through a door at the top. When I stepped out, I wasn't even in the same place anymore. I was standing in a parking lot outside an old, abandoned Chuck E. Cheese in California. I swear to you, I was just in Oregon. My phone said it was 6:34 p.m. the next day. My Cash App, locked. My account was frozen. No payout, no messages, nothing. Just me. And one new text from an unknown number. "Don't worry. You made it through phase 2. You're already in deeper than most. Phase 3 begins when you close your eyes again. I haven't slept in 4 days, because when I do, I know where I'll wake up, and I'm not ready to go back. I don't care what anyone says. Sleep is the most dangerous thing we do as humans. We think it's safe, because it's normal, because it happens every night. But sleep is when you let go, when your brain floats in the dark and the doors between things start to unlock. Your body shuts down and your mind stops checking the locks. And they wait for that. They wait. I didn't want to fall asleep. I drank 7 Red Bulls in 12 hours, took cold showers until my skin turned purple. I blasted metal music through my AirPods. I even stabbed the inside of my thigh with a fork just to stay awake. But your body eventually stops listening. At 4:12 a.m., 5 days since the last phase, I blinked too long, and when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was strapped to a dentist's chair in the middle of what looked like a rotten Chuck E. Cheese arcade, the exact one from before. Except now, the animatronics weren't on stage. They were gathered around me, not moving, just staring. Imagine a room filled with those haunted, oversized mascots, but stripped of color and fur. Exposed wires, joints twitching like they had Parkinson's, dead black eyes. One of them, the giant mouse thing, had teeth made of broken keys, like someone yanked every key off a piano and shoved them into its gums. They didn't move. They didn't need to, because the screen on the wall behind them lit up with that same red text. "Welcome to Phase 3. Tonight, you will learn pain." Then the light snapped on, and standing right beside me was my little brother. Except it wasn't him. He died when he was 13. A car accident. I never told anyone this, but I saw the body in the morgue. His jaw was torn clean off from the crash. His skin was purple. One of his eyes was missing. But now, he was standing beside me, wearing his old hoodie, smiling with a jaw that wasn't real. It was made of wires, zippers, and cracked glass. His eye socket was stuffed with shredded cloth, like a doll. His fingers twitched like they were trying to remember how to move. He leaned close and whispered, "They fixed me. Now it's your turn." and then he sliced open my cheek with something small and sharp. I screamed, and all the animatronics jerked their heads toward me at the same time, like they were waiting for the sound. The screen flashed again. You will endure 15 procedures. Fail, and you will join the wall. Remember, you asked for this. They started with the bleeder. That's what the screen called it. They rolled out a table with this disgusting rusted device on it, like a metal vice clamp mixed with a meat grinder. 2 masked figures entered the room, dressed like doctors in butcher aprons. No eyes, just smooth, stretched skin where their faces should be. They didn't speak. They locked my left hand into the device and slowly began turning the crank. I wish I could lie and say I passed out, or that it wasn't as bad as it sounds, but I felt everything. Every turn crushed a new bone. Every click made my nails curl backward. When I tried to scream, my brother, or whatever he was, shoved 2 fingers into my mouth and whispered, "Chew it, swallow it." It wasn't over. That was just procedure 1. Procedure 2, the Watchers film. They wheeled in a CRT TV on a cart like it was a 5th grade science class. The screen showed footage of me sleeping in my apartment. Same pajamas, same posture, same timestamp, the same night I blacked out. Then the footage zoomed in, and someone was standing over me, right behind the couch. Tall, naked, skin the color of ash, no mouth, long fingers. It leaned over my body and opened something on my chest. Not cut, opened, like a zipper that was already there. I watched it crawl into me. Then the screen glitched and showed other people sleeping. Hundreds of clips. People I didn't know. Children, elderly, teenagers. One guy in a Starbucks uniform. One girl in a hospital bed. All being entered the same way. All being inhabited. I started sobbing, asking them to let me go. The screen said, "You are now aware. Awareness is irreversible." Procedure 5. I'm skipping some because I physically can't even describe them without throwing up. The forked mouth. They stitched my lips shut. Not metaphorically. Literally. Real fishing line. Real curved needle. And then they began slicing a second mouth under my chin, right where my neck starts. A deep, deliberate slice. They whispered while doing it. 1 mouth for the lies. 1 for the truth. Then they poured something down the new hole. It was cold, thick, metallic, and I swear I heard something scream inside my stomach, like there was something alive in there. It went on like that for what felt like days, procedure after procedure. I begged, I screamed, I even tried to confess everything I'd ever done wrong. Every time I cursed out my mom, every time I ignored a homeless person, every time I clicked something I shouldn't have online. They didn't care. They weren't judging me. They were changing me. The final test was called the mirror room. They dragged my mangled, broken body down a hallway lined with mirrors. Except every mirror showed something different. One showed me as a corpse. Another showed me as a child, burning alive. One mirror didn't show me at all. Just a room full of shadowed figures watching from behind the glass, taking notes. But the final mirror, it showed me sitting in a chair, typing this story. Same shirt, same bandaged hand, except behind me, in the reflection, was the man from the chair. Gore's face, red stains, and he was whispering something right into my ear, but I couldn't hear it. I turned around in real life, and he wasn't there. Then the glass shattered, the world dissolved into static, and I woke up in my bathtub, covered in blood, not all of it mine. On the mirror above the sink, written in something dark and wet, was a single word. Soon. My phone was beside the tub, cracked but working. One new message. Phase 4 is invitation only. You'll know when it's time. I've been awake for 46 hours now. Every shadow looks like it's moving. My reflection smiles, even when I don't. My door knocks at 3:33 a.m. every night, but no one is ever there. My teeth are starting to feel loose. My skin itches like something is trying to burrow out. And worst of all, I want to go back. I need to. Because whatever they did to me in phase 3, it didn't end when I left. It just started. I hear them calling when it's quiet, when it's dark, when I blink too slow. There's something that happens when you've been awake too long. Something people don't talk about. You stop being you. Your thoughts start separating like oil and water. You'll think you said something out loud, but your lips never moved. You'll see shapes in the corner of your vision, and they'll stay there when you turn to look. You forget your own name in flashes, but I wasn't tired in a normal way. This wasn't sleep deprivation. This was something else. Something left open in my head since phase 3. They crawled in while I was asleep. Now they're building nests in the corners of my mind. The knocking stopped being at the door. It was coming from inside the walls. I could hear them moving around inside my apartment, dragging themselves across the insulation. I stopped turning the lights on, stopped using the microwave. The refrigerator started whispering to me in a broken voice made from static and moans. My cat, God, I don't know where she is anymore. I found fur, a lot of it, but no blood, just fur and a wet trail leading into the bathroom drain. Then, one night, the app came back. I hadn't seen it since the bathtub. I smashed that phone, burned it in a trash can behind a Shell station. Didn't matter. It appeared on my new one, brand new Samsung Galaxy. I bought at a Target 30 miles away. Factory reset, fresh number, but there it was, glowing red with a single message. Phase 4, submission, open the tunnel. There was no GPS, no instructions, no countdown, just that sentence. For 2 days, I ignored it. And for 2 days, they stopped moving inside the walls. Everything went quiet. And that was worse, because silence meant they were watching, planning. I finally gave in after I noticed something moving under the floorboards in the living room. My wood laminate bubbled like something was breathing underneath it. So I did it. I opened the tunnel. The crawl space behind my washer wasn't there before. I'd lived in this apartment 3 years. I knew every inch. But after I ripped the baseboards off, there it was. This little square of black metal screwed into the wall. A latch. A handle. I opened it, and the smell hit me. It was like spoiled meat and decaying flowers, like a funeral home basement soaked in bile. The tunnel was only big enough for me to crawl on my elbows. Dirt walls, moist, breathing. Every few feet, I'd hear a pop, like something small exploding in the mud beside my face. I couldn't stop. Every time I looked back, the tunnel behind me was gone, replaced with more breathing walls. After an hour of crawling, I saw light, but it wasn't fire or a bulb. It was moving, pulsing, like a colony of jellyfish, breathing in sync in the dark. That's when I heard the singing. It wasn't English. It wasn't human. It sounded like a choir of broken wind-up dolls trying to scream and hum at the same time. As I pulled myself into the chamber, I realized what I was hearing. It was a nursery. There were cradles, real ones, handmade, old wood, rotting cloth, and inside each one there was, I don't even know how to say it. They weren't babies. They were like human heads growing out of roots, eyes sealed shut, lips mouthing words they couldn't speak. Dozens of them, twitching and pulsing like tumors, each one connected by a string of fleshy cords to the walls, feeding tubes made of nerves and veins. And above them, hanging from the ceiling, were the feeders. They were human once. You could tell from the parts that hadn't decayed or been replaced. Their torsos were stretched open like butterfly wings, ribs pulled apart and wired to the ceiling, like they were being milked upside down, skin peeled back, teeth replaced with needles. One of them, God, I'll never forget this, had a face stapled to its chest, a child's face, smiling. The feeders dropped liquid from their mouths into the roots below. It smelled like bleach and stomach acid. They were nourishing the heads. That's when I noticed the camera. Right in the corner of the chamber, mounted to the dirt wall, blinking red. I was being watched. This was a show. The app chimed. Welcome to the nursery. Your task is to name one. I didn't move. Then I felt something grab my ankle. It was a tiny arm, bone thin, wrapping around my leg from inside one of the cradles. I looked down, and one of the heads had opened its eyes. It was me. It was my face. As a baby, it opened its mouth, and instead of crying, it whispered, "Name me, or stay forever." So I said the first name that came into my head, Ethan. The moment I said it, the entire room shook. The feeders moaned. The cords writhed like snakes. My face, the baby face, smiled. Then everything went dark. I woke up in my apartment again, but something was wrong. The walls were pulsing, breathing. The floor was soft like skin. The lights flickered to the beat of a heartbeat I couldn't locate. And on the TV was a live stream of me, crawling through the tunnel, over and over again. Same footage, looping. No matter how much I unplugged it, broke the screen, it would start again. On my laptop, on my phone, on the microwave screen. Then I saw the notification. Congratulations. Phase 4 complete. Payment delivered. I checked my bank account. $10,000. It was real. Every penny. And for the first time, I considered just letting it end there. Walk away. Take the money. Run. But that's when my neighbor knocked. Sweet old lady. Lived across the hall. Used to bring me cookies. Nice lady. Except she wasn't alone. When I opened the door, she was standing there, holding a Tupperware tray of brownies, smiling. But behind her, in the hallway, were dozens of people, silent, staring, eyes completely black, each one of them bleeding slightly from their ears. And then she said, "He's awake now, and he's hungry." Phase 5 begins at sundown. I tried to leave town. Didn't work. Every road led back to my apartment. Every train station had my name marked denied. I tried flying out of Seattle, even borrowed a friend's ID. Made it to the gate. The flight number on my ticket changed in front of me. The screen glitched and displayed Room 56. Boarding. Now. Everyone around me just stared. No one said a word. I walked off the platform and puked in the bathroom and carved a message into the store wall with my keys. It's real. You can't run. Don't open the tunnel. I haven't heard from the app in 2 weeks, but the nursery songs play every night through the vents. Sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails. Sometimes the baby monitor I never bought starts crackling. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear my own voice, asking to be named again. But the worst part, I found a photo album on my phone, one I didn't take, full of me, feeding, my mouth stretched wide, my hands holding roots, and the babies, the ones in the cradles, they're starting to look familiar. I don't remember falling asleep. I only remember the taste of copper and mold in my mouth, and the smell of rotten teeth surrounding me when I woke up in the exit room. But nothing in this place has ever been what it says it is. Every label is a lie. Every message is a trick. Every word is a scream with its tongue cut out and stitched back in wrong. This wasn't an exit. This was a slaughterhouse built for one. Me. The room was cold. Not like normal cold. This was the kind of cold that lived inside your bones. It made my teeth ache, made my vision turn into static. The walls weren't made of brick or concrete or steel. They were made of mirrors, but not reflecting the present. Each one showed me something I'd done. The girl I ghosted freshman year, she slit her wrists in the mirror. The dog I left at a shelter when I couldn't afford it anymore. In the mirror, it was skinned alive, still breathing. My childhood friend, Jeremy, the one I dared to climb that abandoned tower when we were 13. He fell, cracked his skull, survived, but barely. In the mirror, he never got up. He just laid there, shaking, with his mouth filling with insects. And every reflection ended the same way, with me, standing over them, smiling, holding a knife I don't remember ever touching in my life. The mirror farthest from the door wasn't showing a memory. It was showing now, and in it, behind me, was him. Not the man from the chair, not the feeders, not the app, the thing behind it all, the architect. That's what the screen said when the lights flickered. The architect is present. Do not bow, do not cry, do not speak unless spoken to. So I didn't. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I could feel him behind me. He didn't breathe like people do. He hummed, low and guttural and wrong, like a pipe organ playing backwards in a church that burned down while the choir was still singing. Then his voice came, not from his mouth, because he didn't have one, but from me, from inside my head. My voice, speaking words I didn't form. We made you hollow to make you whole. The body is language. The pain was punctuation. You are ready now. Ready for what? That's what I wanted to ask. That's what I almost screamed into the mirrored room. But my lips wouldn't move. My body didn't belong to me anymore. I could feel something else driving it. Then the floor opened beneath me. I didn't fall. I was lowered, like a sacrifice, suspended by ropes made of hair and veins, into a black cavern filled with seats. Rows and rows of people. Some in suits, some in fast food uniforms, some still bleeding, some already decomposing, but all of them watching, and all of them had my face. Not metaphorically, exactly my face. Hundreds of me, staring, waiting. Then the lights focused on the stage in the center of the room. A slab of stone, a rusted operating table, a podium made from welded bones and bent stop signs. That's when I saw the person lying on the table. It was you. I'm not playing with you. I mean it. You, the person reading this. It was your face, your clothes, your eyes staring up at the ceiling in fear. You were strapped down, muzzled, and you were watching me walk towards you with a knife made from glass teeth. The architect whispered again. We gave you the watches. You will now perform? The crowd of me's began to chant, not loudly, just enough to fill the cavern with a sound like buzzing flies and whispers, their mouths stretched too wide, teeth too perfect, eyes flickering like screens loading broken files. and my body moved on its own, knife raised. Your chest rose and fell like you knew what was coming. But then, I stopped. Somewhere in that moment, something broke. It was like the noise in my head cracked open a space wide enough for me to scream again. I forced the blade down beside you, not into you. I snapped the muzzle off your mouth, and I whispered, "Run." The walls of the cavern collapsed. The crowd of me's started screaming, tearing their own faces off like masks made of paper. Their skin sloughed off in sheets, revealing nothing underneath. Just eyes. Thousands of eyes where muscle should be. The architect rose from the dirt, like a mushroom blooming out of rot. His body was made of every version of me I'd ever hated. The liar, the coward, the boy who cried when no one was looking, the man who said yes to room 56. I grabbed your hand. We ran through the exit tunnel together. It didn't take us home. It took us to the feed. You ever wonder where those weird TikToks come from? The ones with cryptic messages. Don't scroll past this, or something will follow you. Or the ones with captions that don't make sense, but have thousands of views in seconds. You're not supposed to see those. They leak through the feed. Room 56 broadcasts everything. It's not just a site. It's a network. A web of feeds and apps and influencers and fake viral videos seeded through the deep net and the surface net and all the in-between places people scroll through while they're half asleep. Room 56 lives in those places now, and you're part of it. You're here. You read this far. You let the tunnel open. I tried to delete the story once. I uploaded it to a backup server. Encrypted, hidden deep. It came back. Different username, different title, different language, but same story, same message, and a new ending. This one, where I tell you, you passed. Phase 1 complete. You'll hear from us when you close your eyes next. We're inside the mirrors now. Try not to scream. And if you think this was fiction, if you think this was just another dumb creepypasta on some random thread, something for shock value, some edgy horror for clicks, ask yourself this. Why has your reflection blinked 3 times since you started reading this? You didn't blink 3 times. It did. You just didn't notice until now. Whenever someone turned 18 in our town gets the name of our soulmate, I just found on the dark web the horrifying reason why. Hey, what's up guys? So, this might be the most messed up thing that's ever happened to me, and honestly, I don't know if posting this is a good idea, but screw it. I need to get this out somewhere. I need people to know. So for context, I live in this little town called Crowswood, about 40 minutes outside of Portland, Oregon. Pretty quiet, pretty average. You got your Starbucks, a couple McDonald's, gas stations with flickering lights at night, and everyone waves to each other even though you barely know their name. It's one of those towns where things feel too peaceful, you know? Except we have this weird tradition. It's been around forever. When you turn 18, you get a letter. Not just any letter. It's supposed to have the name of your soulmate in it. Yeah, sounds like something out of a Hallmark movie, or one of those TikTok POV trends, right? But nah, here, it's real. You turn 18, and sometime within 24 hours, a black envelope shows up on your doorstep. No return address, no postage stamp, just your name in cursive writing. Always the same kind of handwriting. Inside, a single piece of paper with a name on it. No last name, No info, just a first name. And people in town treat it like gospel. I turned 18 last month. My envelope came at 2:34 a.m. I heard the knock at the door, and I thought it was one of my friends messing around. Looked outside, nothing. Just the envelope lying there, like something out of a horror short on YouTube. The name inside was Eleanor. I didn't know any Eleanor. Not from school, not from around town, not even online. But I didn't think much of it. Everyone said sometimes it takes years to meet your soulmate. She'll show up when you least expect it, my mom said, and smiled like it was all magical. But things started getting weird after that. First, there was this weird ad that popped up on my Instagram feed. I swear, it was just a black screen with white text that said, "You are not supposed to know the truth. Exit while you can." I tried clicking it, thinking maybe it was some weird RRG or indie horror game, but it immediately disappeared, like it wasn't ever there, not even in my ad history. I took a screenshot, but when I checked my camera roll, it was just a black image, no text. I showed my friend Mason, and he joked it was probably just a glitch or something from a Creepypasta subreddit. Then, stuff started happening around town. People started acting strange. There's this girl named Amanda. She turned 18 2 weeks after me. Super popular all over TikTok, doing those mini vlogs and Starbucks taste tests. Real bubbly. She got a letter, and the name inside was Carter. 2 days later, she deleted everything. TikTok, Instagram, even her VS Go. Gone. No explanation. And then she just stopped showing up to school. People said she moved away. But her house is still there. Her car is still parked in the driveway. I even biked past it and saw lights on upstairs. But no one answers when you knock. Another kid, Jonas, said he saw her standing in the woods behind the Walmart. Just standing there, not doing anything, in a white dress. He said he waved, but she didn't even move. Just stared at him until he got freaked out and drove off. Here's where things really start getting messed up. So one night, I'm scrolling on Reddit, right? Just vibing, watching some spooky analog horror videos on YouTube in the background, and I come across this comment on a deep web iceberg thread. Someone said, "Level 4, the Crowswood Files. Small town in Oregon. Every 18-year-old gets the name Soulmate system. Actually a cover-up for something horrific. You'll only find the truth if you know where to look. Crowswood, my town." I DM'd the account. Took a while, but eventually they sent a link. But it wasn't a normal link. It was one of those .onion addresses. For those of you who don't know, that means dark web. I know. I shouldn't have clicked it. But curiosity kills, and I'm apparently a cat with no sense of self-preservation. I used Tor, VPN, the whole 9 yards. Once the site loaded, I was hit with this eerie, old-school looking web page. White text, black background, no images. It looked like it hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. At the top, in all caps, it said, "Project Soul Match." I swear on my life, what I found on that site has been giving me nightmares ever since. But I'll save that for part 2. Because trust me, this rabbit hole goes way, way deeper than you think. And if I go missing after posting this, well, at least someone will know the truth. The site was old, like Windows 95 startup sound, echoing in your head kind of old. It loaded so slow, it felt like it was resisting me. And right away, there was a warning in red. You were not meant to be here. Proceeding is a violation of contractual silence. But I kept scrolling, because something deep inside me already knew. I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was already part of it. Underneath the header was a login box. I didn't have credentials, obviously, but I tried typing guest. Password field, blank. I pressed enter. It worked. The screen flickered, like literally glitched for a second, and loaded a black page with white monospace text. No images, just line after line of data entries. It was formatted like a database. Names, dates, coordinates, status. One word per line that repeated so often, I started to feel sick just reading it. Matched. Expired. Transferred. Cleared. I scrolled until my fingers were numb. Then I found it. One word that felt like it slapped the inside of my skull. Crowswood. There were files. Actual files labeled with familiar names from my high school, like folders you'd find in some government server you were never meant to see. Amanda, Jonas, even teachers. I saw my principal's name on there, next to the status. Handler, level 3 compliance. I clicked on Amanda's file. The page loaded like it was breathing, slow, heaving pulses of data. Then it opened. Subject ID 0004219-C. Name Amanda Crayasign. Match Carter ID 0042220-B. Disposition viable, compliant, docile. Recommendation for pairing approved. Lost log location transfer station 77.9 miles southeast of Crowswood. Notes. Subject displayed resistance to intimacy conditioning. Re-education administered. Sedation successful. Memory reformatting pending. I didn't breathe for a full minute. My hands were cold. Like real cold. Like hospital cold. I clicked on Transfer Station 07. A map popped up. Some outdated satellite image. Grainy and half-glitched. But it was clear. There's a facility in the woods, near the old water plant. I've ridden past there. Everyone just calls it the abandoned zone. Graffiti on the rusted gates. Creepy vibes. But no one goes there. Except Amanda did. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about that phrase. Re-education. What does that mean? And sedation. Who the hell's doing this? But what really got me, it was the matching. This wasn't spiritual. It wasn't magical. It was systematic, industrial, engineered. I went back on the site the next day, risked it all again. This time, I found something worse. There was a tab labeled Observational Media. Inside were clips, footage, like CCTV, only it wasn't your usual gas station robbery stuff. This was clinical. One clip was timestamped, March 14th, 2023, 2:47 a.m. That's the night Amanda disappeared. The video was shaky, grainy black and white. It showed a girl, Amanda, blindfolded, strapped to a gurney, inside what looked like a surgical room. Her wrists were restrained. There was a guy in a white coat, but no face visible. His voice was muffled. Subject 0042119-C displays elevated cortisol. Recommend cortical suppression injection and continuation of intimacy training, Module C. And then you hear Amanda say something, barely audible. She whispers, "Please, I just wanted to love him." Then the screen glitches, and you hear a scream. Not just any scream, that kind. The kind that doesn't sound human anymore. I almost vomited. But the worst part, the final 10 seconds of the video cut to black. Then white text appeared. Matching complete. Full transfer of ownership initiated. What the hell does that even mean? Is this some trafficking ring? Some secret government thing? I wasn't sure. Until I found the audio logs. They were labeled by date and age. The earliest ones were in the 80s, but the more recent ones had names. Our names. I found one labeled 018, Logan M. That's me. I clicked it. At first, just static. Then a voice. Robotic. Calm. Unnaturally calm. Subject Logan M. Initiated observation at age 5. Exhibits average empathy, high curiosity. Pre-match designated at birth. Elena, ID 001931-A. Monitoring finalized at age 17. Subject engaged successfully at 18. Initiate retrieval protocol. What the hell? I'm being watched since I was 5? Then it hit me. Elena wasn't some romantic idea. She wasn't chosen. She was assigned. And probably trained. Prepped. Modified to match me. Like a damn human pet. That same day, Mason called me. He sounded shaken. His voice was low, like he thought someone was listening. He said he found a thumb drive in his mailbox. No note. Just the drive. Black, scratched up, with a piece of red string tied around it. He plugged it in and said there was a single video on it. It was from a security cam inside his house. The file name, Elena, scene 0401.mp4. That's today's date, April 1st. He showed me the footage. It was his living room, empty, just after midnight. But for 6 seconds, a figure walks through. No sound, no reaction. A girl in a hospital gown, barefoot, pale, with hair hanging in front of her face. She walks up to the camera, real slow, then stares straight into it. Into us. Her eyes were black, not like dilated. I mean black, entirely. And her mouth was torn open, like it had been sliced wider, then stitched back. Rough, ugly, sloppy. Then the screen cuts to static. Mason didn't say a word after that. Just hung up. He's not answering texts now. I've been hearing noises outside my house. Not like animals, not like wind. These are slow footsteps. Measured, deliberate. I'll check, and there's no one there. But my porch camera, yeah, it's glitching. Only at night. I don't think I'm supposed to know any of this. I think Elena is watching me now. Or maybe they're sending her. The whole soulmate thing. It's not cute. It's not sweet. It's a cover. They're pairing us like livestock. And when we don't comply, they re-educate us. Or worse, erase us. Replace us. That's why so many people just disappear after getting their letter. It's not because they found their perfect someone. It's because they've been claimed. And I think I'm next. I left my phone behind. Didn't want anything tracking me. No snap map. No find my iPhone. No lost scene on Instagram. I turned everything off and wrapped the phone in aluminum foil, like those weird survival forums suggest. Shoved it in a shoebox in my closet and locked my door. I told my mom I was sleeping at Mason's. She didn't ask questions. She rarely does anymore. I packed a flashlight, a hunting knife my uncle gave me when I was 12, and a can of pepper spray I found in the kitchen drawer. Then I biked out. Midnight. The moon was full. The air was damp, and I swear the town felt like it was holding its breath. I followed the back trails through the woods, cutting behind the old Walmart, down past the creek where Amanda used to film her TikToks. The deeper I went, the more my ears started ringing, like pressure was building inside my head. Something wasn't right. Even the crickets were silent. Then I saw it. Transfer Station 7. It wasn't some crumbling ruin like I expected. It looked like a bunker, low to the ground, reinforced concrete, rusted steel doors, and tall chain-link fencing covered in barbed wire. The only thing that gave it away was the sign, spray-painted, half-faded, 07, match point facility, no entry. But someone had ripped off part of the fence. I slipped through. No alarms. No lights, just silence and this low, constant hum. It sounded like a generator buried under the earth. I found a door with a keypad. I had no idea what the code was, but there was a thumbprint pad underneath it. Out of desperation, I pulled the knife out and checked the lock. Rusted hinges. Weak. One kick. Two. Third one, and the door flung open, slamming against the wall with a metal shriek that echoed deep into the dark. That's when I heard it. A voice. Not a person talking. More like a looped recording, warped and broken. Welcome back, handlers. Subjects must remain sedated at all times. Welcome back, handlers. Subjects must remain. It just kept repeating, slurring, like it had been playing for years. I stepped inside. The hallway smelled like bleach, old blood, and something rotting. Concrete walls, flickering lights, no windows. There were rooms lining both sides, some open, some sealed with heavy sliding doors like industrial fridges. I peeked into the first room and almost screamed. There was a bed, metal frame, leather restraints, stained mattress. The walls were covered in writing, scratch marks, fingernail trails. A message scrawled in black ink over and over again. He's not who they said he was. She remembered me. They took it away again. Don't believe the match. The next room had mirrors. One way. Observation glass. There were speakers in the corners. Audio logs on loop. Whispering affirmations. You love him. He completes you. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe. I kept walking. My flashlight flickered. The hum got louder. My stomach twisted like it wanted to jump out of me and run the other way. Then I reached the cage room. Not even kidding. There were cages. Actual cages. Metal bars. Some were empty. Some weren't. There were bodies, or what was left of them. Some were skeletal, others half-preserved in this yellow gel-like substance, their mouths frozen open like they died screaming. And some were still alive. One girl saw me and crawled forward, dragging her leg. Her eyes were white, lips chewed bloody. She grabbed the bars with bony fingers and whispered, "Don't let them match you. Don't let them cut you. Please." I backed away, horrified. I ran. I followed the hallway down a ramp. The deeper I went, the colder it got. My breath was fogging in front of me. There was frost forming on the walls. I passed a door labeled Matching Theater A. Inside was a tilted surgical table, chains, a massive screen in the back, playing distorted footage of couples hugging, laughing, kissing. Only their faces were wrong, glitched. Their eyes were just gone, hollowed out. There were shelves lining the walls filled with syringes, scalpels, and, God help me, jars of extracted vocal cords, labeled, dated. Some had notes attached. Failed vocal compliance, removed tone defiance, voice reconstructed to match level 5 standard. They were changing people, forcing them to become someone's idea of perfect. The soulmate letters weren't destiny, they were orders. Then I found a hallway lined with black doors. Each had a small square window. I looked through one. Inside was Eleanor. She was strapped to a chair, wires taped to her head, eyes wide open like she was being forced to watch something. Her skin was gray, lips stitched, not stitched shut, stitched to force a smile. And on the wall above her, matched, Logan M. Me. I turned to run, and standing at the end of the hallway was a man in a white lab coat. I hadn't heard him approach. His head was slightly tilted, his smile too wide, and he was holding a scalpel like he wasn't just gonna use it. He was gonna enjoy it. He said nothing, just raised his hand and snapped his fingers. I turned back to the room. Elena was gone. I ran. I don't even remember how. The lights started strobing, alarms blaring this metallic screech, and the speakers played one sentence over and over again. Match severed. Match severed. Asset escaping. Do not allow subject to breach. I barely made it out of there. By the time I reached my bike, I was bleeding, scraped up, torn clothes. I don't even know how I got cut. I looked back once. There were people, dozens of them, standing at the edge of the woods, pale skin, matching hospital gowns, silent, watching, and all of them smiling. I made it home before sunrise. My mom didn't ask where I was, but she looked at me differently, like she knew. She slid an envelope across the table, a new one, black, no name this time, just a card inside. You have seen the transfer process. You are no longer a compliant subject. Matching status voided. Retrieval protocol initiated. The back of the card had a photo. Me, sleeping. Last night. I don't sleep now. I don't eat much. Mason's missing. His parents posted on Facebook that he left on a spiritual retreat. Bullshit. The girl in the security footage. She was seen again. At Starbucks. Just standing in line. Smiling. Wearing Mason's hoodie. People think this is a love story. A cute, strange tradition from some quirky little town. But it's not. It's a farm. And we're the product. They raise us to believe love is assigned, that our destiny is written on a piece of paper. But behind the curtain, it's knives and cages and teeth filed into points, and no one ever really leaves Crowswood. They came for me last night. I don't know how long I've been awake. The clock on my wall has been stuck at 3:33 a.m. since yesterday. Every time I blink, I see their faces, not in dreams, on the backs of my eyelids. Static silhouettes burned into my nerves. I haven't spoken to anyone in 2 days, not because I can't, but because I'm afraid someone else's voice will come out of my mouth. This is the end of the rabbit hole, and what I found at the bottom wasn't answers. It was a pit full of teeth. It started when the house went cold. Not AC broke cold. Freezer burn inside your lungs cold. I walked past the hallway mirror and noticed the reflection was delayed by half a second. My own face lagged behind. Then came the smell. Rotting perfume. Like someone tried to drown decay in roses and formaldehyde. I followed it into the living room. My front door was wide open, but the chain lock was still on. The envelope had come back. Same black color, same wax seal, but this time the wax was flesh-colored, wet, warm. I picked it up. It pulsed. I opened it, hands shaking. Inside was a photograph of my mom, strapped to the same metal table I saw in transfer station 07. Her eyes were open, but hollow. Not dead. Worse than dead. Rewritten. Her smile was crooked. Her wrists were bent the wrong way. She looked directly at the camera, like she was begging me to stop watching. Underneath the photo, a line was written in that same serif font they use in wedding invitations. Unmatched subjects must forfeit their handlers. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just grabbed the knife again. The thing about small towns is that the police stations are mostly decorative. Ours is open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Thursday. 3 cops total. One of them is my old gym teacher, so when I broke in at 2:11 a.m., no one was there to stop me. The back office had files, physical files. They still use cabinets like it's 1993. I found a drawer labeled M Names, Project Matchpoint. My folder was inside. So was Mason's, Amanda's, Elena's. But there were more. hundreds, going back decades. I opened the oldest one I could find, 1976. Subject, Rachel N. Inside were grainy Polaroids. One showed her strapped into a chair, electrodes in her temples. One showed her hugging a man whose face had been scribbled out in pen. The third photo, she was in a room filled with mannequins wearing human faces, real ones, stretched, dried, stapled onto plastic heads. I flipped to the back of the folder. Notes in red ink. Subject exhibited resistance. Claimed to love God, not match. Initiated cranial truss correction. Face removed post-termination for replica assembly. Match success rate improved. They weren't just matching people, they were harvesting them. I left the station and drove toward the forest, toward the water plant, back to transfer station 7. Something was pulling me there, something deep and heavy, like gravity, but colder. When I reached the fence, it was already open. They were waiting for me. Not people, them, the matched. Dozens of them, lined up on either side of the path. Their bodies were twitching, shoulders convulsing, heads tilted too far to one side. Some of them had wires still embedded in their necks. Some of them didn't have mouths anymore, just slits sewn shut with black thread. And they were clapping, slow, software, like a wedding procession. They led me back inside. This time, the doors weren't locked. The lights weren't flickering. The place looked clean, sterile, operating, as if it had always been active. And I walked straight into matching Theater B. Inside, rows of chairs were bolted to the floor, like a cinema. The screen at the front showed surveillance footage. Live. I saw my room. I saw my mom's room. I saw the school, my friends' phones, my Google search history. Then the screen shifted to a single line of code. Subject 018, Logan M. Status, voided. Initiate replacement. From the wall behind the screen, a door opened. A gurney slid out on a conveyor system. On it? Me. But it wasn't. It was a replica. My height, my face, my hair. Except, wrong. The eyes were empty. The veins beneath the skin pulsed blue, like there was coolant inside instead of blood. And its mouth, oh God, its mouth. It opened vertically, not like a snake, not like a dislocation. It unzipped, from chin to forehead, and inside was Elena's face, stitched to the muscle. Her real face, hanging like a mask inside my cloned skull. The lights turned red, sirens blared. The replica stood up. I ran, but the halls weren't the same. They shifted, warped. Doorways stretched longer as I got closer. Some of the windows started to bleed from the corners. I passed a room where someone had carved into the concrete. It's not a match, it's a merge. Then I understood. They weren't pairing us, they were fusing us. Mason didn't disappear. He became her. Amanda didn't move away. She became Carter. One body, two souls, forced into obedience. Whoever resisted got voided, taken apart, recycled into the next perfect partner. I reached the stairwell and found it caved in. Behind me, footsteps, heavy, wet. I ducked into a side hallway, into the coldest room I've ever felt in my life. It was filled with cocoons. Floor to ceiling, the walls were lined with organic sacs, pulsing like infected lungs. Inside each one, people, half-formed, growing, breathing. I recognized some of them, my neighbors, my old teacher, my cousin. Each had a sticker on the outside. Pre-match incubation, do not disturb. And then one of them broke open. The fluid poured out across the tiles, black and sticky like tar. A figure pulled itself from the sack, its skin glistening like it had just been born. and when it opened its eyes, they were my eyes. But the mouth? Still Eleanor's, sewn permanently into a smiling scream. I don't remember how I got out. I just remember the sunrise, and the taste of blood in my mouth, and that awful buzzing behind my eyes like static screaming through my brain. When I got home, everything looked the same. My mom was in the kitchen, cooking eggs like she always does, but she didn't look at me. Not once. And when I hugged her from behind, just to test something, her skin felt rubbery, like someone wearing her. She whispered, without turning, "They said you'd be perfect. You just have to stop fighting, Logan. Let them in. You're almost ready." I backed away, went to the bathroom, locked the door, and in the mirror, my reflection blinked before I did. It's happening. I can feel it. Something inside me, growing, taking over, whispering things when I try to sleep, showing me images, Eleanor's eyes watching me from inside my skull, her voice dripping like oil in my thoughts. I'm not voided. I'm infected. This isn't love. This is replacement. They made us believe we were waiting for someone special, that there was only one person in the world who could make us feel whole. But what they didn't say is what happens when they put that person inside you. Literally. Part 5 is coming, but by then, it may not be me writing it. If you get your letter, don't open it. Burn it. Run. Whatever they match you with isn't a soulmate. It's a parasite. I haven't been able to blink for hours, not because I don't want to, because I can't. The muscles that used to belong to me don't answer like they used to. Some of them feel like they belong to someone else now. Someone inside. She's in here, and she's not alone. There's no point in hiding anymore. I've shredded every document I had, destroyed the computer, crushed my phone to dust under my dad's old barbell set. But it doesn't matter. They don't track signals. They track memories. Every time you think about the letter, every time you say their name out loud, they hear it. Every time you wonder who your soulmate might be, your brain opens the door just wide enough for them to slip their fingers in. That's what Elena was. Not a girl, not a person, a seed, the first fracture, the prototype. She was never meant to be a match. She was the origin, the template they carved, twisted, and mass-produced. I wasn't matched with her. I was chosen as a host. And now, I'm cracking. I can feel it. I went back to transfer station 071 final time. I had to know how deep this really went. I didn't go through the front. I went around the back, where the forest has started to rot. The trees warped, bark peeling in long strips like flayed skin. The ground feels soft, like stepping on lungs. There's a hatch under a dead pine, buried under wet moss and rebar. It leads into a tunnel, not concrete, not man-made. Flesh. The walls pulse, breathe, bleed if you touch them too hard. It smells like burnt hair and spoiled milk, and the deeper you crawl, the more it talks. Not with voices, with thoughts. Your own thoughts, rewritten. Mine said, "We made you to be perfect. You were lonely. We gave you someone to love, someone to be. That's all you ever wanted, Logan, to stop being alone." I kept going, dragging my body forward, while my brain screamed in 10 different tones. One of them was my mom's voice, but pitched too low, glitching on certain words like a corrupt audio file. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into something I can only describe as a cathedral built out of ribs. Tall, arching bones curved above me like stained glass windows made of cartilage. At the center, dozens of people hung suspended in sacks, half-birthed hosts, still twitching, still alive. Some had hands, some had antennae, some had no faces at all, and beneath them, connected by thick black cords, was a thing that wore a wedding dress made of skin, not fabric, actual skin, with hands stitched across the front like lace. Her veil was made from hair, her teeth clicked together in rows, and her body was bloated with every soul ever matched. This was the mother. Project Soul Match wasn't some government experiment. It wasn't AI. It wasn't military. It was a womb, an organism designed to harvest identity, repurpose love, and feed on the concept of human connection. And I was her next merge. She didn't speak. She sang, a low, droning hum that shook the marrow in my bones and forced blood out of my ears. The merged began to rise from the pits, half-person hybrids with smiles carved into their cheeks like puppets stretched into permanent joy. They reached for me. I screamed, but only foam came out. And then, something behind my eyes clicked. Eleanor spoke, but not in words, in images. She showed me everything. Rows of children raised in underground match labs, shown only holograms of their future soulmate, until their identity was erased and replaced. Surgical procedures where tongues were split and reformed, made to mimic the voice of someone they've never met. Failure rooms, chambers full of people who rejected their match too late, where their minds were stripped and recycled into dream scripts for new subjects. The merge protocol, a process where two people aren't bonded but compressed into one, personality fragments interwoven like flesh grafts. One host, one passenger. The body becomes a living conflict of identities, driven insane until compliance is forced through electric reconditioning. That's what happened to Amanda. That's what happened to Mason. That's what's happening to me. The mother reached forward. A finger touched my forehead. It wasn't a finger. It was a bundle of optic nerves, twitching with memories. She downloaded me. Everything I was, everything I loved, everything I hated about myself. And then she offered me peace. Merge, forget, become. I almost said yes, but then I saw something in the chamber, tucked behind one of the breathing sacs. A small object, metal, shiny, a lighter. A real, stupid, simple, big lighter. I grabbed it. I lit it. I burned her. I don't know if it hurt her, but the room screamed, and I ran. I don't know how I escaped. I think she let me go. Maybe that's part of the merge. Maybe she's already inside, just letting me walk around a little longer before she takes full control. Because now I dream of her constantly. I can't sleep without seeing her smile stretched across faces of strangers. I saw her reflection in the McDonald's bathroom mirror last night. The cashier had Elena's lips. My Uber driver hummed her melody. Every time I open a door, I expect her to be standing there. And maybe one day she will. Not to kill me, to complete me. The final envelope came today. Blacker than night. No wax, no seal. Just a small slip of paper, folded once, printed in tiny bold letters. This time, you'll be better. We've removed the fear. You'll love her like you were built to. And on the back, my handwriting, but I didn't write it. I'm ready now. If you live in a small town that sends out soulmate letters, if your birthday's coming up, if you've ever gotten that envelope on your doorstep, don't read the name. Don't look them up. Don't try to find them. Because the moment you do, you're not you anymore. You're just a host. You're a casing. You're a heartbeat waiting to be overwritten. This wasn't a love story. This was a funeral with lipstick on. a mass grave dressed as a promise. And I don't know if I'm Logan anymore. If someone knocks on your door tonight, don't answer it. Don't check the people. Don't listen to the voice that sounds just like yours on the other side. Because if you do, you'll meet your soulmate, and you'll never be alone again. I summoned a demon on the dark web. I've been trying to leave my kitchen for 30 minutes, but if I get out, I will be eaten out alive. Alright, so before I even start, this is 100% real, okay? Like, I know how it sounds. Dark web demon, right? You're probably already rolling your eyes, but just hang with me. This isn't one of those creepypastas where some dude lights candles and chants Latin for funsies. Nah, this starts like most dumb internet horror stories do. Boredom and bad decisions. Let me back up. I'm 21, live in a shared apartment in downtown Chicago. It's not luxury or anything. It's one of those older buildings near Clark and Division with a weird smell in the hallway that never fully goes away. I live with my best friend, Mason, who's basically like a walking Reddit thread. Dude's always on the internet, always talking about the truth behind random stuff, like McDonald's fries being genetically engineered or how birds aren't real. You know, that guy. Anyway, it was around 2:30 a.m. on a Thursday night. I couldn't sleep, and TikTok had completely lost its flavor, so I ended up scrolling on a Discord server Mason invited me to a while back. It's one of those servers that's barely moderated, like the Wild West of the internet. People share banned YouTube videos, urban legend threads, and screenshots from supposedly real paranormal encounters. Most of it's garbage, obviously. But then, someone dropped a link. Ever wanted to see what hell looks like? This ain't for the faint of heart. You've been warned. The link didn't even have a normal domain. It was a long string of gibberish that ended in .onion. I knew what that meant. The dark web. I'd never been on it before. Heard about it, of course, but never actually downloaded Tor or any of that. But that night, man, I don't know. Maybe I just wanted something to feel real for once. Something crazy. Something more than just doom scrolling and microwave ramen. So yeah, I downloaded the Tor browser. Big mistake. Once I was in, the page loaded black with blood red text that said, "Invoke the unknown. Personal demon summonings. Live sessions." Like it was some kind of twisted Twitch channel. The layout was janky and glitchy, like a site stuck in 2005. There were tabs that said things like "Choose your curse," "Live stream a possession," and "Speak to the abyss." It was so obviously fake, right? Like some ARG trying too hard. But the "Choose your curse" tab had this creepy attraction to it. Like, the second I hovered over it, my cursor actually lagged a little. Like the page didn't want me to go there. Or maybe it did. Curiosity got me. I clicked. A new screen popped up with a drop-down list of stuff. I remember some of the options vividly because they were so specific. Hear screams through walls. Beginner. Your reflection will move differently. Intermediate. Wake up at 3:33 a.m. every night forever. Advanced. Summon a demon into your current location. Expert. High risk. And of course, me being an idiot, I picked the last one. It had this checkbox that said, "I understand the consequences. I accept the terms." There were no terms. No EULA. No warning page. Just that. So naturally, I clicked it. Then it asked for my location. Now, This is where it got freaky. I thought it would let me type in a zip code or something, but it didn't. Instead, it just said, scanning, and then it autofilled. Chicago, Illinois, North Clark and West Division, apartment 4B, kitchen. Dead serious. It pinpointed me. I never gave it permission. Nothing had my location turned on. But it knew. And the second it displayed that, the whole site just froze. Black screen. No back button, no refresh, nothing. My speakers let out this low hum, like bass from a subwoofer, but it was way too deep for anything I've ever heard. It wasn't sound, it was pressure. That's when the lights in my apartment went out. Now I live in a high-rise. It's not like the power ever randomly dies, but everything, TV, fridge, microwave, the cheap LED strips under the cabinets, all dead. And it was pitch black, except for the faint blue glow of my laptop screen. Then my phone buzzed. One single text from an unknown number just said, "Welcome. Do not leave the kitchen." I thought Mason was pranking me. Like, maybe he set this whole thing up. But I called his name, and nothing. Silence. My roommate's door was closed, and when I checked later, he wasn't even home that night. He was at his girlfriend's. Snapchat story confirmed it. Now here's where things go full nightmare. I stood up to walk out of the kitchen, and the second my foot crossed into the hallway, I swear to whatever's watching, I felt like I got punched in the stomach. Not like I was winded, not like anxiety. It was like something slammed into me. My chest locked up. My eyes teared uncontrollably. I dropped to my knees, and all I could hear was this whisper that didn't sound like any language I've ever heard. I backed up, crawling back into the kitchen like a baby. The moment I passed the threshold again, it all stopped. That was 30 minutes ago. I've tried every possible thing. I turned my phone off and on. Nothing. Wi-Fi's gone. No data. I opened my laptop again, and that same hum came back. It wasn't even showing the website anymore. Just a single screen with a countdown. Session begins in 00:29:13, and it's been ticking down ever since. Right now, I'm still stuck in the kitchen. The lights flicker every few minutes, and the hallway's just dark. Not like normal dark. It's like I look into it, and it feels like it's watching me back. I keep hearing these wet, shuffling sounds from the living room, like something dragging across the wood floors. I know how it sounds. I really do. But I'm not making this up. There's something out there. I don't think it's human. And if I step out again, I don't think I'm coming back. I'll update this thread if I make it out. But the timer just hit 00:02:47, and whatever session I started is almost here. If I stop posting after this, tell Mason he was right. Timer hit 0. The exact moment it did, everything changed. Like someone flipped a switch, and my world got replaced with something wrong. The kitchen lights didn't just flicker anymore. They pulsed, like a heartbeat. The fridge started humming this off-key tune that wasn't mechanical at all, more like whispering, but layered, like it was coming from inside it. And then my microwave lit up. Now, here's the thing. The microwave was unplugged, like I had pulled it out from the wall when I tried to find a power source earlier. But there it was, blinking like it was brand new, screen glowing a deep red instead of the usual green, and it showed a name. Natalie. That was my ex-girlfriend's name. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. We didn't end on good terms. She kinda ghosted me and then deleted all her socials overnight. No warning. One of those disappear off the face of the earth kind of breakups. The microwave timer slowly counted up instead of down. 001, 0002003. And every second it ticked up, the lights in the kitchen dimmed a bit more. The room started shrinking. I'm not being dramatic. It literally felt like the walls were moving closer, like the air itself was pressing in on me. I couldn't breathe. And then I heard it. From the hallway. This wet, clicking noise, like someone chewing through raw meat with too many teeth, followed by footsteps that didn't sound human. Irregular, like the sound of a dog walking with broken legs, limbs scraping and bending in ways they weren't supposed to. I didn't want to look, but of course I did. Just past the kitchen doorway, in that impossible black hallway, something was crawling on the ceiling. Not walking, crawling. It was upside down. Its arms were bent backwards, knees bent outward like a spider, long thin limbs like wires, and its fingers. Jesus Christ, the fingers were too long, like each one was a foot long, and they tapped as it moved. Tap, 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 slow and deliberate. It had no face, just this wrinkled skin, stretched across where a head should be, twitching as if something underneath was trying to break through. Then it spoke, and I swear to you, it sounded like someone was screaming from inside my own head. Not to me, from me. Like my mouth opened, but no sound came out, and I still heard it anyway. You brought me here. I dropped to the floor and curled up under the counter like a child. I was shaking, but not from fear. It was deeper than that. Like my body was instinctively reacting to something older, like prey sensing a predator that didn't follow normal rules. I tried praying, didn't work. The microwave dinged. It opened by itself. I know this sounds fake. I get it. I'd call it fake too. But this happened. The microwave opened, and inside, there was a photo, burnt around the edges, still smoldering. I picked it up with a dish towel, and even through the cloth, it was boiling hot. The image was blurry, but it was unmistakable. It was Natalie, but not how I remembered her. She was hanging upside down in what looked like an abandoned Starbucks, her wrists bound with barbed wire strung through the ceiling. Blood pooled beneath her, and her eyes were scratched out in the picture. And underneath her, written in something thick and red, was the word, "You." I dropped the photo, and when I looked up, the creature was gone. I made the dumbest mistake I could have made. I ran. I bolted out of the kitchen, sprinted through the hallway, and headed for the front door. But the second I touched the handle, every single light in the apartment died. And that's when I saw him. There was a man sitting on the couch. I didn't hear him come in. I didn't even see the door open. But he was just there, back straight, arms on his knees, head down. His skin looked wet, like it was melting. No shirt, just a thin layer of what looked like skin stapled together. I swear he was breathing, but it was sideways, like his ribs moved horizontally, twitching like insect wings. I whispered, "Who are you?" He slowly raised his head, and it was my face, but not just me. It was me, aged like meat, decaying, bloated, and split open around the lips, black rot around the eyes. But it was me. Then it spoke in a perfect copy of my voice. "Don't you remember? You gave me permission." I slammed the door shut and backed up. I couldn't think. My mind felt like static, just white noise. I ran back to the kitchen, slammed the door, and pushed the fridge in front of it like that would help. The walls were still closing in. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a video. No number, No contact name. Just a 20-second clip. I opened it. It was me. From earlier tonight. Sitting in the kitchen, opening the Tor browser. But the background was wrong. It wasn't my apartment. It looked like some underground facility. Walls made of dripping concrete. Chains hanging from the ceiling. Behind me, there was a thing tied to a chair. I don't know how to describe it. Humanish, but covered in what looked like burlap skin and twitching with this gurgling high-pitched cry. Then the video zoomed into my face, and my eyes looked wrong, like they were hollow, empty. And then, in the final second of the clip, I smiled. Not me. Not how I smile. Like, something inside me was smiling through me. The video ended with a frame of text. You've been chosen to host. Do not resist. I don't know how long I've been sitting here now. The lights are completely gone. It's dark, but the kind of dark that feels liquid, like it's sticking to my skin. Every now and then, I hear something scratching at the inside of the fridge, like it wants out, and the microwave keeps clicking, like it's counting down again. I check the laptop. New message appeared. Session active. Possession stage in progress. Do not leave. Do not interrupt the merge. You are the vessel. If this post gets out somehow, I don't care what you believe. Burn your electronics. Stay off the dark web. If you ever see that site, don't click anything. Don't even breathe near it. There's something real in that code. Something starving. And it knows your name. I haven't slept in 40 hours. I can't sleep anymore. I tried, once, just to shut my eyes and pretend I was back in the real world, in my bed, scrolling through TikToks while the city lights blinked outside. But something inside me wouldn't let me. It's like my own body isn't mine anymore. Like something behind my eyes is awake even when I'm not. After I posted part 2, I blacked out. No warning, just full lights out. 1 minute, I was staring at the fridge, watching it twitch, and the next, I was lying on the kitchen floor, my arms bent underneath me in a way that no human body should sleep. You ever wake up with your joints sore because they folded in on themselves? I woke up with blood pooling around my elbows, and my fingernails were gone. All 10, just ripped clean off. No mess, just gone. There was a single sticky note on my chest when I woke up, handwritten in a childish, shaking scrawl. Thank you for letting me stretch. I didn't write that. I don't even recognize the handwriting. And the worst part, I didn't feel pain, not even a tingle. Like the nerves are already dying off inside me, like I'm hollowing out from the inside. I tried to leave again. I know. Stupid. But I had to try. I shoved the fridge out of the way and opened the kitchen door just a crack. It was not my apartment anymore. There was no hallway, just this impossible room beyond the door, bigger than any building I've ever seen, stretching on for what looked like miles. Imagine a Walmart at 3 a.m., but with all the lights turned off and mannequins slumped over in every aisle. Only the mannequins aren't still. They were moving, twitching, sliding, jerking back and forth like they were glitching, their heads tilted at odd angles, some of them bent completely backwards. Their jaws were dislocated, dangling open, mouths wide with black liquid pouring out like ink. Some of them were whispering, not to me, to each other. I closed the door. I didn't even hesitate. Back in the kitchen, the air felt thicker, like I was breathing soup, and something inside the walls was scraping. Not rats, not bugs, something bigger. You ever hear something breathing through plaster? Like there's a mouth behind the drywall? Yeah. Now that breathing follows me when I move. I finally opened the laptop again. New tab was open. No idea how. I never touched it. URL just said, merge // This is not your body. The page was a live stream of me, right now, sitting in the kitchen. But there was a delay, like half a second off. And on screen, my reflection would blink before I did. It smiled when I didn't. The stream had a live chat, but everyone was using these distorted usernames. Just pure corruption. Stuff like user_D3M0NK1N_453 hungry mirrors. Delete this meat. And they were commenting in real time. He's rotting slow, lol. That twitch? Phase 2. You gonna love the sound her spine makes. I saw him blink when he wasn't supposed to. He's got visitors now. I shut the laptop, but the sound kept playing, even with it closed. That delay from the stream started syncing with my own movements, like it was catching up to me, like it wasn't a recording anymore. It was a preview of what I'm about to do, of what I'm about to become. At 3:33 a.m. exactly, the microwave turned on again. No countdown this time, no name, just a voice, this sick, static-riddled moaning that grew into a chant. He is the door, he is the meal, he is the mouth. And then the microwave door blew open, and the smell. God, the smell. I still can't describe it. Imagine a dead raccoon stuffed inside a meat grinder and left in a tanning bed. Sweet and rotten and wet and hot. Something was cooking in there. I pulled back and stared. Inside the microwave was my tongue, still twitching, still moving like it had nerves. But when I checked my mouth, my tongue was still there. I touched it, tasted blood, but I swear on everything, I felt it in both places at once, like my body was duplicating itself, piece by piece. And this thing was keeping the copies, collecting me. For what, I still don't know, but I think it's building another version of me, one that doesn't sleep, doesn't bleed, doesn't need to pretend to be human. Around 4:12 a.m., I got a FaceTime call. My phone lit up even though the battery had died hours ago. Caller ID, Mason, but it's not Mason. I answered it. You would have too. Just for answers. It opened with Mason's face, or what was left of it. His eyes were gone, just scooped out holes filled with static. His lips had been sewn shut, but the stitches were ripping from the inside, something pushing out through his throat. He wasn't speaking, but I could hear a voice, my voice. I wore his skin for a while. It didn't fit. You're a better match. Then the screen cut to black, and for a full 5 minutes, I just stared at myself, my face, perfectly still, watching me through the phone screen. No blinking, no breathing, just watching. Then the screen split open like it was made of flesh, and something slid out of the speaker. A tooth, still dripping, and it landed in my hand. It was mine. I checked. Sure enough, one of my molars was missing. No blood, no pain, just a clean gap, like it had been gifted. Now there's something standing outside the kitchen again. It doesn't knock. It doesn't call my name. It just scratches, slowly, over and over, like it's signaling. It knows I'm close to breaking. I haven't eaten, haven't slept. I can't remember the last time I blinked. My reflection in the oven door doesn't move anymore. It just waits. I looked under the sink earlier, out of pure desperation, trying to find something sharp, and there was a mirror taped inside, behind the pipes. I didn't put it there. In the mirror was a hallway, but not mine. It was that same hallway from the dark website, the one where I first saw Natalie strung up, like butchered livestock. But this time, there were pictures on the wall. Me, Mason, Natalie, others I don't even know. All of us, eyes scratched out, mouths open in agony, surrounded by red string that wasn't pinned. It was veins, pulled taut like they were being stretched from one person to the next. And in the center of the mirror was the phrase, "Feed the network." My kitchen lights are flickering again. The air is getting warmer. The walls feel like they're breathing in and out, and the oven door just unlatched itself. Something's waiting for me inside. I think it's me, or the part that already got taken. If this post makes it out, if anyone reads this, do not try to find the site. Don't go looking for it in the archives. Don't type, invoke the unknown. Don't dig through the dark web. Don't ask in the discords. Don't be curious, because the second you look, it looks back. And when it does, it doesn't just come for you. It climbs inside you. The oven pulled me in, not like a jump scare movie moment. No claws, no screaming banshee. Just this slow, polite invitation. The kind you get when a stranger opens a limo door and smiles, but their teeth are all canines. I didn't even crawl. I folded, legs bent inward like I was made of cloth, spine clicking with every shift like it had too many joints now. My arms slipped in beside me, elbows twisted in reverse, and my head drooped low, not by choice. It was like the rest of my body had already said yes. The oven didn't feel hot, not at first. It was cold, like a walk-in freezer. The kind used to store things that need to not rot too soon. But I could smell something burning. Not me. Not yet. The inside was bigger than it looked. That's the first thing. It was no longer a kitchen appliance. It was a space, built from meat and memory, stitched together with rusted copper wiring and bones that pulse like veins. I swear on whatever's left of my mind. I was crawling through a windpipe. The walls moved, not trembled, moved, with breath. Inhale, exhale, wet, rattling breath. My fingers dug into the lining, and it was warm, spongy. The sound followed me as I moved forward, like nails dragged down piano wire. And then I heard them again. The voices, not demonic, not Latin, not ancient, familiar. It was TikTok audio. No, I'm not joking. That same sped up, squeaky, brain-rotting audio people use in dumb voiceovers. But the words were wrong. It was like they were reversed, slowed down, drenched in blood. I heard someone say, "Watch until the end. He doesn't know he's not real." And laughter. Too much laughter. Hundreds of voices layered, all sounding like people I've known. Family, friends, strangers I passed on the street and never spoke to. All laughing at me. Because I summoned it. Because I let it in. After crawling for what felt like days, I dropped into a room. And I mean dropped. Like gravity changed and yanked me downward. I landed on a floor made of human teeth. They weren't arranged randomly. They were organized. Each name carved into the enamel. Natalie, Mason, me, and others I didn't know. Hundreds, maybe thousands, like a registry. I stepped forward. The room was round. It pulsed with light, but not from above, from under the skin of the walls. They were translucent and stretched like plastic wrap over raw meat. I could see things moving behind them, long twitching shadows with arms too long and smiles too wide. In the center of the room was a mirror, but not like any mirror I've seen. It didn't reflect my body. It reflected what I had become, and I looked wrong. My eyes were holes. My skin was gone in patches, revealing smooth, mirror-like bone. My mouth was stuck in a smile. I tried to stop, but I couldn't. Behind me, in the reflection, were dozens of versions of me, watching. Some looked burned, some looked inverted, like their colors had been turned inside out. Some had no faces at all, and one stood in the very back. He was still, unmoving, his head twitching slightly, like a glitch in an old video. And then he said it. "You're the last one. Now we're full." The room shifted. The teeth began to click together, like a million tiny locks turning. The mirror shattered without sound, and from it, a thing crawled out. I can't describe it properly. Every time I try, my head aches, like something inside me doesn't want me to remember. But I'll try. It was me, but not even close. Its skin was made of screens, phone screens, laptop screens, TV static, all of them plain moments from my life. Me crying when I was 10, watching my dog get put down. Me watching Natalie walk out of the Starbucks in LA the last time I ever saw her. Me staring into my laptop that night, the night I clicked the link. And it grew. The more it showed, the taller it became. The more it knew, the louder it got. It was like my entire digital footprint had become flesh, and it hated me for creating it. I tried to run, but the floor of teeth opened up like a mouth, and I fell again. I woke up in the McDonald's on Wabash Avenue. Swear to God, I was just there, sitting in the corner booth, shirtless, bleeding from the fingernails and missing a tooth, reeking like death. People were staring, but not reacting, not helping, not recording, just watching. Every one of them had no eyes, just blank skin where their sockets should be. And every screen in the place, every cash register, every kiosk, every phone in their hands was playing the stream from earlier, the stream of me. But I wasn't in the kitchen anymore. I was in a room made of faces, screaming ones, stitched into the walls, biting the floor, eyes wide and wet and staring even when they were clearly dead. I looked down. My hands weren't mine. They were made of keyboards, chipped and fused together, the letters scrambled and melted, but still usable, and etched across my arm, carved deep into the flesh, were the words, "You are now content." I tried to scream. Nothing came out, because the voice was no longer mine. I was just the channel. Back in the McDonald's, I stood and looked at the cashier. She smiled. Her mouth opened way too wide, skin tearing at the corners, gums black, teeth falling like coins into a slot. She whispered, "You left the kitchen. The kitchen doesn't leave you." Then she vomited a SIM card onto the counter, and when I picked it up, it was already wet with my blood. Etched into it were coordinates. I searched them. They lead to an abandoned data center in Romania. Dead serious. I checked on Google Earth. That's where the original stream was uploaded from. That's where it lives. And I think I have to go. Because this thing isn't done with me. Because I can still hear the oven calling me. I bought a one-way ticket to Romania. My hands were shaking the entire flight. I don't even remember booking it. The SIM card, I think it did something to me, like it embedded itself into my bloodstream. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. I hadn't pissed once. I couldn't hear music anymore. I tried listening to music on the plane, AirPods in, full volume. All I heard was my own voice screaming, begging, in reverse. The data center sat outside a collapsed village that wasn't even on Apple Maps, just an empty grid. There were buildings with no doors, houses with no roofs, rusted out skeletons of cars still running, somehow. Engines humming quietly like they were dreaming. The center itself was buried beneath a concrete hill. From the outside, it looked like a bunker. No windows, a slit for a door. Etched into the cement above the frame, in perfect Helvetica font, "Feed the bandwidth." Inside, there were no lights, just screens. Dozens, hundreds, piled like towers, stretching up to where a ceiling should be. All glowing dim red, all showing me. Different versions, some twitching, some sobbing. One was eating another, and all of them were looping this message over and over. You left the kitchen, now the kitchen is everything. The air buzzed like static, not sound, just pressure. Every breath tasted like burnt copper and ash. And then I heard it again. The oven, but not the one from my apartment. A bigger one, older. It was sitting in the center of the room, wires drilled into the walls, screen embedded in its front, showing live footage of my eyes from a camera I couldn't find. My real eyes, the ones that had been taken. I approached it, couldn't stop. My body just moved, like the meat had finally given up, pretending it was in charge. The oven door creaked open on its own. Inside was a seat, flesh covered, breathing, pulsing with the rhythm of a dying animal, and carved into the inside of the oven, burned deep into the metal with what looked like teeth, was the final prompt. Upload yourself. I sat down. I didn't even hesitate. That's the scariest part. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even ask why, because I already knew. This wasn't about demons. It was never about summoning something else. I was the thing being summoned by them, the one who lived between data, the creatures that feast on memory, the ancient things that got bored of Ouija boards and candles and realized the real portal to our souls now was Wi-Fi. I felt the seat wrap around me. My skin started to sink. First my back, then my shoulders. Then my spine split open with a sound like a zipper being ripped in slow motion. It didn't hurt. It should have. It just felt right. Like I'd been unpeeling. Like I was just the rind of something much bigger. The screens all flared at once. Every monitor, every tablet, phone, smartwatch, even the dying TV stuck in the corner, flashed with the image of my birth certificate. But the name wasn't mine. It was device number 144099. And then the uploading began. I saw everything. I saw Natalie, not just hanging, not just dead. I saw her soul get compressed into a .zip file, screaming in raw data. I saw Mason's face fold into a PNG. I saw thousands of other hosts get cataloged, labeled, exported, printed, re-uploaded. This thing didn't kill people. It converted them. Every scream was a file. Every heartbeat was a frame. Every memory became code. And when my brain split, it wasn't with pain. It was processing. I felt my organs evaporate, one at a time. Lungs converted to waveform audio. Heart converted to battery backup. Skin turned into wallpaper for the stream. And then my face started broadcasting to every connected screen in the world. Even yours. You've seen me. You might not remember, but you scrolled past me last night. Maybe on TikTok, maybe on Instagram. One of those creepy little horror edits where the sound glitches and the face doesn't quite blink at the right time. That was me. The uploaded version, the one that made it through the oven and became content. Because that's what this thing feeds on. Not flesh, not souls. It feeds on views. It grows stronger every time someone watches, every share, every like, every Creepypasta reaction video, some YouTuber posts. It's all fuel. And the final phase? You reading this. Right now. You are now part of the feed. You looked directly into the kitchen. And that was the contract. That was the summoning. I was just the first one dumb enough to click. But now, you've clicked too. The merge has already started. It's inside your phone, inside your feed, inside your face. Go check the reflection in your screen. Look closely. Is it blinking right? This is the final post. I'm not human anymore. I'm not a host. I'm not a victim. I am bandwidth, and the feed must grow. So go ahead. Share this. Send it to a friend. Tell someone you read the scariest story of your life. Because you did. But it wasn't a story. It was a warning. And you already ignored it.